as we're looking at these angles, we have two planets in particular that jump out because they are near enough to an angle to have a big impact. So let's look at them. So the first one we're going to talk about is Uranus. Uranus sits right here, sits on the descendant. Uranus's job is stimulation. Okay, Uranus is about electricity. When we're dealing with ourselves and our energy, Uranus's job is to make that energy move quickly. In other words, Uranus doesn't like anything that's stagnant. I like to say that Uranus is the planet that breaks shit, because when he comes along, he can seemingly cause problems to get your attention. So as a for example, if you don't get an oil change on your car for a while, well, eventually you're going to get some kind of car problem. Uranus is the planet who goes, hey, guess what? Today, of all the days, you're going to have a car problem today. I'm going to throw it at you so that you see that there's a problem and deal with it. Uranus is a planet that does stimulation all the time. And people who have Uranus prominent in a chart, and in this case prominent right next to the descendant is considered prominent, people who have that are going to want to be in constant motion. They're going to want to be to respond to stimuli all the time. Uranus also happens to be the planet of kink as well. And so given all of that sitting right next to the descendant, we can suspect anyway, that our subject did not really want to sit still. He always wanted to be doing things. He probably couldn't sit still all that much. Uranus is also the planet of high tech. And so likely he was very interested in anything involving the internet, email, any of the new technologies that were coming out. He was probably an early adopter of those technologies. And when people have Uranus prominent in a chart like that, you can usually expect that this is a person who prides themselves on being innovative. Uranus is the planet of the unconventional. Now, what is unconventional changes over the years, okay? As society changes, what we consider unconventional will shift. Well, in this particular case, we have someone who has Uranus on the descendant, and this seventh house represents partnerships. It represents romantic relationships, it represents friendships, and it represents business partnerships. Uranus, as I said, represents the unconventional, and even you can see that pretty readily. You know that this guy was a collector, okay? He collected people. He collected people from all walks of life. That's a very Uranian idea. He wanted to connect with people from all different industries, okay? And he was someone who connected people from a lot of different industries. And so when you have Uranus there on the cusp, you can probably get an idea that this is not a person who let the moss grow under their feet. They probably were very, he was probably somebody who really just never stopped. And again, considering what we know now, I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. And again, the planet, the fact that it also happens to be the planet of kink, yeah, we can certainly make some assumptions about that now too. I don't need to go into any detail on that. I'll let you guys imagine that one. But when we're dealing with someone with Uranus that prominent, there has to be, or is almost always, the way that we express it. Okay, now we know in this case how our subject expressed it, likely what kind of stimulation he was interested in. However, I have seen some similar things in the charts of serial killers. Many of them also have a prominent Uranus, or a Uranus that's well connected in the chart. And it really depends on how you choose to engage, how you choose to deal with the energy of that stimulus. Again, just from a chart, we don't know. But in the case of serial killers, many of them had a connection between the Sun and Uranus, for example, to reinforce the idea that these were people who needed a specific kind of stimulation, and not necessarily positive, of course. But when you see a Uranus connection like this, one of the questions you'd probably want to ask is, well, what's the outlet? Where is this electric, powerful energy going? And in this case, because it's in the 7th house, it was likely put toward partnerships, friendships, and as we know, other relationships. The 7th house represents one-to-one relationships of all kinds. Okay? So when we see a very prominent Uranus like that, again, we can make certain potential assumptions, and given what we know about our subject today, I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that that Uranus energy was probably very powerful in his life.